All right, I think it's showtime. Do you know what day it is?
I think so.
Do. Star Wars Day. Do. Star Wars Day. Do. Star Wars Day podcast with StarWarsReporter.com. Welcome. May the 4th. I get to avoid another week of talking about The Last Jedi on the happiest day of Star Wars fandom, which is Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
Are you saying you didn't want to ruin May the 4th with The Last Jedi? Is that what you're trying to tell us, Steve?
No, I'm just saying that I have another week to
digest,
to reflect,
to ingest all the content.
Yes.
And come with all the positive spins on it.
I know, to meditate on everything I'm going to say. But until then, I have a week to just have fun. And today, we're talking about Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. All right. So before we get into that, I just want to introduce the scoundrels of Star Wars Reporter. First, we'll start with Trooper Todd.
Hello there. All you rebel scum out there. Welcome to the Star Wars podcast on this momentous day of May the 4th.
May the 4th. And of course, we have Jason.
How's it going, man? May the 4th be with everyone. It's nice to see everybody. It's nice to see you guys on this momentous day. You know, it's funny. It came quick this year. You know, I didn't even get all my presents. I feel like I was unprepared, but a glorious day nonetheless.
I'm looking for Lord Vader to drop that little gift down my chimney with the Force and put it underneath my Ewok tree or something, right? So
I like where this is going. Hey, but before we start, again, I'm going to say make sure everyone checks out StarWarsReporter.com for the latest Star Wars news, and we have interviews, giveaways, events. It's a lot of fun. And of course, make sure you follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
I just want to say it's the best place to get Star Wars information. That's what I just have to say, by far. For years, that's where I get it from.
Totally is.
And people you can trust.
People you can trust.
You can't trust everyone. Hey guys, so Star Wars Day, and I think I've said that if everyone took a drink every time I said Star Wars Day, you'd all be drunk right now. But today should be the day where everyone is positive and people are throwing confetti shaped George Lucas's in the air and having a good time.
You know what? I just want to say, you know, how it's changed so much. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you never even heard about this. Now, everybody on my feed on Facebook or something, it's all Star Wars all day long. And there's so many cool memes about celebrating the day and just obviously what an impact this storyline has had on people and these movies, because why would they waste so much time doing this if it didn't touch them somehow, some way? So it's just really amazing. And I think, to me, every year it seems like the May the 4th gets ramped up more and more and more, because more people are into it, more people are celebrating it. Like a few of my friends bought these little hats you can wear as a Princess Leia hairdo on the side. Like wow, like it just seems like everything is at your fingertips now, and just there's new interesting ways, and people who I wouldn't think followed Star Wars so closely are celebrating it. It's kind of cool.
It's true. It pulls in like a lot of people that aren't even hardcore fans now. I actually get a kick out of the people who aren't as into Star Wars, who are like, oh God, May the 4th, that it's become such a thing that it actually tramples through the people that aren't as into it, and they have to endure Star Wars Day. I'm like, well, I get a kick out of that. Actually, it's like it's unavoidable now. It really is like it's a holiday now. It's funny. You see it all over the place. Even watching. I'm a sports nerd. You know, I'm watching baseball and everything. And even some of the major league teams were like talking about May the 4th and are having like a Star Wars Day. And I'm like, so it's just a testament to how it has infiltrated our culture for sure that we have today.
And I think Mandalorian has like Dave Filoni and John Favreau have a huge responsible for how big it's getting. Because I was watching Steve before we did this thing, sent out the thing with Dave Filoni on Good Morning America, and it had a Zoom call and it had like 50 people in it, and they all had Grogu dolls, right? Like the Mandalorian's like really starting to shape the new direction of Star Wars fans and fandom, and it's kind of positive to see, right? Because there's not a lot of there's not as much hate. Like, how much hate do you hear about Mandalorian? You hear next to nothing, right? Right. So it's a positive spin. It's kind of saved the franchise from what the sequels have done.
Yeah. Do you know? And you know, I wish Jen was here because she's probably way younger than us. But I mean, this is something that something that's been living in culture, in pop culture, for like 40 what years?
Yeah.
So it's amazing because just speaking about today, last year was the first year because we were all trapped at home. So Star Wars Day, and my wife teaches in a classroom with kids, and so everything is Zoom. I just had to
somebody
stress
had to say something to that. Thank you.
He teaches kids. What?
Kids.
You heard it here first.
Cool. I thought it was Wookiees.
Exactly. But the cool thing about this is, so Star Wars Day came up, and the teacher in the classroom was like, you know, like it came out that I was the big Star Wars nerd. So for a little bit in the beginning of class, I had like this really cheap Darth Vader helmet on and stuff like this, and the kids were loving it, and they were trying to, you know, get me to take the helmet off because they weren't sure if it was me, like it was my, you know, the husband of, you know, my wife. And so this year the teacher had brought it up again to my wife, like, you know, maybe we can do that and he can come in and with some stuff. My wife's like, no, he's a big nerd, I don't want that. But she did bring a ton of stuff in, and I'm just saying, so well over 40 years, and here we are still celebrating Star Wars. So here's the little display she brought in today and laid out for the kids, and they just loved it. So
yeah, it's nice. Just think how big those clone troopers were, though, to have the helmets. That, my God. Sorry, I apologies. I'll show myself out.
So anyone that's tuning in too, make sure that you comment, tell us your favorite part or your best memory of Star Wars, how you got into Star Wars, and what it's meant to you. So, or what it, you know, maybe you just think we're giant nerds and we should just shut up and go outside and play a sport or something.
But you're the nerd or something, right?
It's too late for that.
Yeah, I invested too much of my life into it, Steve. I just can't drop it now. Sorry.
That's it, nerds.
Yes.
So yeah. So Star Wars. Well, there was a few things that came out new today that they released on Disney Plus. There was the Bad Batch, the first episode. And then there was a couple of short videos. They have like a series biome, Star Wars biome, that kind of, they have like a digital kind of showing all the different places in the Star Wars universe, like Hoth and Tatooine and all this kind of stuff. And then they had Star Wars Fly Through, I think it is, and it's kind of the inside and kind of a tour around. It was the Millennium Falcon and a Star Destroyer. And then, of course, there was like a 5-minute Simpsons Star Wars themed short called The Nap Awakens or something.
Yeah, The Nap Awakens, something like that.
Yeah. So, but the Bad Batch, that was the big thing today.
Well, the big premiere today, it was like, I was surprised. Were you guys surprised how long it was? It was like, what, 54 minutes or 56 minutes? It was like almost a full-blown hour. I was really, really impressed it was that long for the first episode, considering Mandalorian gets a half hour, and here it is. It has an hour.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I think it was over. I think it was 70 minutes, actually. It was very long.
It was long.
It could have been, yeah.
Actually, you can look at it.
You should look at it. I was watching it. I said, I told Steve I'll try and watch it during lunch. So I started watching it. It'll be 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Whoa, I had a long lunch break today. Let's just put it that way, because after I started watching it, I couldn't stop watching it. But
yeah, it's over. It was over 70 minutes long.
Wow, it was that's like almost a feature length film. Like, quite frankly, if it's 70 minutes, like it was so very interesting to start off. Like at first, I assumed the Bad Batch from the trailers was a sequel to Clone Wars, and I first started watching, going, "Oh, maybe it's not going to be." And then it didn't take too long, and then boom, okay, obviously it was. And I just really thought, like right now, I'm diving into the Clone Wars, trying to catch up to the Clone Wars. I'm on season 2. It's getting really, really good. But one thing going from season 2 of the Clone Wars to the Bad Batch was how much the animation has stepped up and how much it's changed since the beginning of the Clone Wars to what they can do now. Like they're obviously putting a lot more money into it because the detail, just the texture, like Jason was saying there before, the texture, just the look, like everything about it, just it's been scaled up like 10 notches. It's amazing.
Hey, Jeremy Irvin in the chat's got it right. Heck of a first episode of the Bad Batch. You got it.
Sure. I thought, absolutely. And a couple things really struck me. And one was like how much the way they did it, it was like a film. It was almost like it was shot like with camera. It was very cinematic, like some of the shots and the editing to it. And I also had the feeling that now a lot of people have shied away sometimes from the cartoon side of Star Wars, like Clone Wars and Rebels and everything. Because for some people, and that's okay, for some people, it's tougher to get into an animated show. And watching The Bad Batch, I thought, anybody who's ever had trouble maybe getting into it because it's a cartoon or something, this show, that episode of The Bad Batch, I'm like, that was the most watchable animated, I think for like an adult or something. It was just very, I was just totally captivated by it in a way that went beyond watching. And I love the Clone Wars and Rebels and everything, but the Bad Batch, I was like, wow, this is hitting me more like an actual movie or a real show would. The effect, I don't know if it was because of that little extra bit of, like Ty was pointing out, just the quality and the realism of how it was done. It made me sink into it more, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
What I really loved is the feel of the episode, because I never really thought of it. It's like right after episode 3, when the Emperor took control, what was that whole space, it was kind of like, I liked seeing what the stormtroopers were doing, or the Republic troopers and stuff, kind of how they were acting. And it was just kind of like an odd in-between feel to me, which is perfect, which is what it should have been. So I just want to point out Goldberry's comment. She said, I like playing Star Wars because Princess Leia did stuff. You didn't have to just wait for the boys to rescue you.
Absolutely. And we talked about that when we dove back into the original trilogy, right? We talked about how Princess Leia was a person who didn't wait around to be rescued. And she was one of the first, real strong female characters, or really on film, that just could handle herself, sort of thing, right? So they obviously brought up the same point that we brought up before, that she was a very, very independent, strong character.
Right. And Goldberg also pointed out when she was 7 or 8, when she first started seeing, like us, we were very young, and what kind of impression exactly something like that has on you, when you're that young as well. And I can imagine, I wish we had Jen here to give the ladies' side in our podcast of that with Leia, of course.
Or the much younger side.
Well, because she was like she was a kid when the prequels came out, right? I was an adult when the prequels. I was married when the prequels came out. So it's like it's totally different generations picking up where the Star Wars started, right, for them, right? So it's kind of cool. But
that's one of the beautiful things, though.
Sorry, Jason. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that's one of the beautiful things too, though, that with so much time, each person, depending on their generation, has their own beginnings to all this now, which is the beauty of the multi-generational thing. How about that Bad Batch?
Well, I just want to say about the Bad Batch, I know Filoni, he's the creator of the show, obviously, because it said all of the credits, sort of thing. The interview on Good Morning America today, he was saying how, one thing George Lucas told him is to remember that Star Wars is for kids. And so here's a situation where sometimes I thought the first season of Clone Wars was very kiddish, and then it got a little more mature as it went along, more interesting for adults. Where I thought the Bad Batch, it's totally designed for kids, but at the same time, it intertwines a really complex story that can hold an adult's attention, and not just hold your attention, but actually get into it and really like what's going on. It just wasn't a kids show where good guys win over bad guys. There was turmoil, like right from the very beginning, right from the Order 60. No spoilers, because we all know what happens. That Order 66 gets announced, and you can see that like right away that Bad Batch, there was conflict within that group, right?
Yeah.
And like
Right.
that, and it was pretty severe. And it's like more than just a little kids thing. It was in depth and just really had you guessing what's going to happen next, right? So my hat goes off again, gearing it for kids, but also trying to get the broader audience, the bigger demographic, and it's sucking people in. And I think Star
Right.
Wars is doing such a good job with that right now.
Well, making it for kids doesn't mean you have to dumb it down, and that's what I love that they've been doing with Star Wars, like especially in the animation. I think I said this to you guys before we went live. Man, the animation at Lucasfilm, killer stories, no matter what they do. Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, the Bad Batch is promising, obviously, but it's kind of got its kid elements, but then it's got the stuff for everyone else, and the characters, the Bad Batch themselves. I really like how it's all been fleshing out in this episode, right? And of course, there's that conflict that you said, right? So now, spoilers, everyone, Crosshair is kind of the Judas, right? He's the one that they have to look out for.
It's great storylines. It happens for many. You look at Star Trek. You have Spock versus Bones, right? Always conflicting. You look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You have Raphael against Leonardo. Like you always have those conflicts between a team, right? And that's the stuff that just really builds up. And you Walking Dead had that, like hundreds of those things where people are always conflicting against each other, right? So it's a great storytelling tool to do, and I think they set it up really, really nice.
Adam in the chat, I'll just point this out. He said he loved the Order 66 Caleb Dune intro, which I've completely forgot about that. Yeah, I was like, cool. Wait a minute, that is amazing.
Yeah,
it was very cool tie-in. It's I wasn't thinking. I thought, oh, maybe he's going to be the other character, but I guess maybe we'll see him in the future.
Right, and that was pretty savage too. Like the that scene when his master when she went down, like she gave a pretty scream. I was like, man, it was pretty intense. But no, absolutely. This is, I couldn't help but think too, of course, like we were doing with the Mandalorian, like, wow, there's so much, now where they could go, and there's so many things they could put in. I mean, we could get Vader in this thing, hunting some of these guys down and everything. There's just so much possibility. So they can do that huge, that prime area between the prequels and the original trilogy.
Jason, I never even thought of that possibility. You're absolutely correct. Yeah. It's such a great way to work in existing characters in the Star Wars franchise, like Vader. Just starting off, right? Wow, I never thought of that possibility.
And for that matter, you got Obi-Wan, you got all that stuff, and now we're getting the shows. And so the Bad Batch sneakily kind of also did the thing where there's the potential to tie in the other shows and the other stories and all this stuff that's taken place. So just the way the Mandalorians got a shot to tie together so many things in that time frame.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it, right? Like, there's again, it doesn't matter what they're doing right now. It seems like they're setting up everything with the Mandalorian. They're really set up where they can have multiple different timelines they can focus on, right? Whether it comes to cinematic movies or series, you can see right now. We've seen Luke Skywalker in his prime, better than we've seen any other incidents before in the Mandalorian. Right. We've seen Darth Vader at his best in Rogue One, right? Like, so there's so many different opportunities to bring in people now. Now you see Boba Fett. We're going to see more Boba Fett, and actually make him look as bad as everybody thinks he is, right? Because the cinematic universe didn't do a really good job showing how nasty he was. Now we have the opportunity to see him in action. So it's just amazing that they have this opportunity to do this with these characters and really flesh them out more than what you saw in the movies.
Right. Getting to we sort of started to talk to the character. Was it Crosshair or Sharpshooter? Do they call him?
Crosshair. Yeah.
When the show, that was one thing. When the show in the first half or so of the show, I was like, I'm like, that guy's a little. I thought like over the top with but the show got it right. Eventually he ended up, breaking away. But at first I was like, man, that's a little, man, he's really, it's more than just at odds. I'm like, he's fundamentally, he wanted to take out the Jedi and the kid.
And the
I'm
kid.
like, that's pretty brutal. And they're just hanging out with this dude. I'm like, that doesn't quite mix. And then of course, by show's end, well, no, it didn't mix.
See, and I'm glad that they went that way, because when I was first watching it, when he was doing that, I almost felt like it was going to be one of these, but in the end, they all learned to get along. Like, I thought it was going to be one of these lessons, and it wasn't that.
Right, exactly. And that's what I was worried about, that because I'm like, no, that dude's, what he's trying to do, he's really on the side of the burgeoning empire. I'm like, and and he's shooting at the kid, even, and he was like, no, stop. And like, I'm like,
Caleb
that's
shooting at you.
That's a little tough to ignore. I'm like, I hope they don't just put that on the carpet, like you said, and then everybody's okay at the end. Like, no, they weren't. They actually
cleaned it up all in at the end. Yeah,
that's right. So I was glad that it went in that direction, because that was the only plot point that I was like, I don't, if they're just going to get along, I'm like, that's like a cop out, because that's not cool. Like, that dude can't get a crosshair, can't just get away with that.
Yeah, it also set something up for a really good redemption story arc when the little girl, I can't remember her name. She's like the other clone, but she's the thing. Yeah, right. Like she's got some kind of predictability, kind of talent, because what she say to Crosshair? Remember, she said something. You're going to do something. What'd she say? Remember, she kind of predicted something. You're going to do something, don't do it, sort of thing. Like I think that's planted a seed for a redemption kind of storyline as the season goes on, possibly.
Right.
I'm like, is this a force sensitive clone? Is that what?
Who knows, right? Like it's very, everything's very mysterious, but they planted a seed quite early on in the season, which is kind of cool. Similar to what they did with Grogu, right? And they met Grogu for the first time. Like, they planted a seed, like, oh my goodness, he's got the second episode, he's like lifting a huge rhinoceros, like, wow. So,
but
again,
what if she's connected to the cloning program that we've seen in The Mandalorian? Right? So trying to clone force-sensitive creatures. Yeah, well,
it's anything's possible, right?
It's possible. Because notice too, she was like a sharpshooter there. She shot that trooper or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, I've never shot before." Or
she took it. She shut down Crosshairs, knocked out his weapon.
Yeah,
and so she took him out, like stopped him for the first time shooting a blaster. There's obviously something there to that character, right? So again, they did a really good job planting the seeds. I want to see the next episode on Friday night. So good job.
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's Friday.
Forward to it. So I just want to kind of jump over the other shows. I think we only talked about it a little bit. And the Star Wars Biome. And I don't know if I said this to you guys before we went live, but I found kind of like the camera in the show. They basically are just going over like Hoth. It looks like they're flying over Hoth, and you get an aerial view, and then Tatooine, and different places around the galaxy. And I think I said this to you guys. I found it really relaxing, and I was starting to like doze in my chair. I'm like, oh geez, I was trying to, and it wasn't because it was boring, it's because it was so relaxing. It was very enjoyable. So
like drone shots on these different planets. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but that's what's like drone shots on different planets. Okay, cool.
Pretty much. Yeah, I gotta watch that.
And same with the fly through, where they go through
it's called cockpit view, I think it's called, isn't it?
It's fly through something.
Fly through. I'll check it out.
Fly through. Yeah. So and two, if you want to learn more about some of this stuff, you just want to hear it from us, go to StarWarsReporter.com. For all the people in the chat, make sure you drop a comment in the chat right now. We're live. Tell us your favorite memory of Star Wars, or your thoughts on the Bad Batch, or any of these new shows that popped up. But the other stuffs that they kind of released were, just short little cute clips here and there, like The Simpsons. So really today was just all about the Bad Batch. And
it's pretty big. Start a new show. Great time to premiere it on this day. It would generate a lot of interest, I'm sure. Marketing team, good job, and come with these other things like sharing that little Simpsons. I haven't watched Simpsons like in probably 10 years, so I'm sure they must have did a special and just took a little extra out. I'm guessing that's what it looked like to me. But
I think So I just want to point something else too. So the I think I got the right poster. This is what they released for Star Wars Day from the official.
Oh,
and
really?
Do you notice? So look at it. So this is the official May the Force coming right from Lucasfilm. What's missing from that?
I see Luke.
There's a whole bunch
Leia.
of well, you see Lando back
What's
there.
missing? What's missing? What's missing?
Do you see any sequel characters?
Technically Darth Sidious. The Emperor's there.
There's no Rey or Finn.
There's
or anybody.
No.
Finn, nada.
And you have people from Mandalorian. You have people from the Bad Batch, but you don't have any. Ooh, Steve, good eye.
You've even got some Maul Phantom Menace representation. Yes.
Lots of Clone Wars stuff there too. Yeah. Like all the clone vehicles and stuff. Ooh. Yes, Steve, that's a good eye.
Pretty interesting, right? There was some talk going on there. I didn't find that there was a lot of stuff going on like other years. Like even last year was a little weird on Star Wars Day because we were kind of in the midst of the pandemic, but now here we are a year later and it just seemed weird. It seemed a little light. Seemed a little light for me.
I thought so too, actually. Like what we were saying before, Todd, our friends and everybody, the fans, everybody reacting, but from the official side, it was a little bit quieter than I guess I was expecting. But then again, the Bad Batch, coming out's a big deal and everything. But
I think they put that's where they put all their attention is to the Bad Batch, I believe. The Filoni's doing the circuit, right, of all the talk shows. So that was their big release, is the Bad Batch, and they had added some other little cookies to it too, with the cockpit view, like you were saying, and all that sort of stuff, right? So
it's not bad. So hey, I just want to start with you guys too. I just want to get into, because then people can join in. I just want to get into, what is your first memory of Star Wars?
You want to go first, Jason?
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, to me, it's just like it's seeing the trailer for the first time back in '77, right? Then going to the theater, my dad taking me. I remember the first time we were visiting my grandmother down in Southern Ontario, and my dad was going to take me to the movies, but I had a headache that night, and that's why I had a lot of headaches as a kid. So I was lying down, and my parents said, I guess I fell asleep, and I missed the movie, and I was devastated. I thought it'd be the only chance I ever get a chance to see this movie. Turns out it wasn't. I got to see it a month later when it came to Elliott Lake. I was 5 years old, went and seen it, and to me, it's the first thing is when the Star Destroyer, and then then they board them, and then the doors blow off, and the stormtroopers come through, and that was it. Like I was hooked on stormtroopers right then and there. Like to me, stormtroopers are the greatest looking characters of all time. I just love everything about stormtroopers. I don't know why. Just that's why when I see a stormtrooper, I'm very, very happy. When I see the Mandalorian, I see these troopers. I see the speeder bikes and scout troopers. I'm just in my heyday. I love when I see TIE fighters. I love everything about stormtroopers. I don't know why. That's it for me. That's my greatest thing is stormtroopers. Just love watching them get shot. I love watching them fall. I just love the way they look. I love their blasters. Their blasters are one of the best looking weapons in cinematic history. For me, there's nothing that looks better than a stormtrooper blaster. Nothing. I've never seen any film anywhere make a blaster better than a stormtrooper blaster. That's just my opinion. So there you go.
Wow. What about you, Jason?
Yes. Well, just real quick, and I'll concur. Like, and I'm Todd, the trooper guy for sure. They definitely had a strong impact on me as well, for sure. I had and as everybody's watching, listening to this, as you can figure out, yes, we're old guys. So we were around for the beginning of this stuff. I had the absolute when you hear about, or read about the effect it had back in, in the day, the original Star Wars and blowing people away, I was the absolute just everything George Lucas was aiming at. I was the wide-eyed, thoughtful, quiet little dude. My mother once told me, she said it was like I was waiting for Star Wars. Like I was chill and imaginative, but I was a calm, just chill guy. And I actually have very vivid memories and remember very well seeing it for the first time. I remember the time of day. I remember the theater we went to, what it looked like. I was absolutely, completely blown away. Just the way, is talked about. I was completely captivated. And I literally did walk out of the theater just mouth open, just stunned. It was more than a dream. And the way Todd responded to the stormtroopers, my thing was I was so captivated by all of it. And then the Death Star, the trench Death Star battle, those starships, those X-Wing fighters just strafing across the Death Star and going down the trench. I remember there's certain points of the original movie that I literally remember the first time seeing. And the biggest one still was just wailing down the trench with the X-Wing fighters. As a small kid, I'm like, here's these wild, awesome looking starships flying across this battle station in space. It feels like I'm doing 5 million miles an hour. I was just blown away. I've got a million memories of all of that time, but just, you can't beat that, seeing it the first time and just seeing all the characters the first time and what it made you feel like.
That's awesome. I just wanted to, before I kind of give my answer, there's an article that I shared again. It's an article that our friend James Spawn, who is on the site with us, he wrote an article a while ago called "Your Life: A Star Wars Story," and he kind of talks about his experience and how he feels about Star Wars. And I just want to read how he sums up the article. I thought it was really good. He says, but I guess that's the real power of Star Wars, isn't it? It's not really Luke's story or Anakin's or Ben's or even R2 or 3PO's story. And no, it's not my story either. It belongs to all of us. Every single person reading this can look at some part of the Star Wars saga and see themselves, their lives, their struggles. That's the Force, I think. That's the energy field that penetrates us and binds us together. And if we're lucky, the story we share with those heroes and villains in the galaxy far, far away gives us the thing lives and rebellions are built on hope. So I thought that was really good, inspiring, because that's really basically what we're saying. We all have our story and we're saying, this is what it did to us and this is how we feel. And here we are 40 something years later saying the exact same thing that we did when we were like 6 years old. And that's, what I think about. I mean, first experience really that I really was kind of like the whole Luke Skywalker story. That's what drew me in, right? The lonely farm boy who makes something. He was made something of himself and ended up saving the galaxy. And that was the whole story. And that's what I would think about all the time with Star Wars, through good and bad. So I should have read James's comment from his article after, because I can't even top it. I'm like, I lost all my train of thought. But go to StarWarsReporter.com and you can read the whole article. It's really great. And thank you, James.
Nice plug. Like, another thing for me for Star Wars is just the fact that I really owe a lot. Like, I work in television. I'm a video producer. I make films. So one thing I think that's helped me in my career and helped me give vision was Star Wars toys. Because as Steve would know, I had a big collection of Star Wars toys and I played all the time. And when I was playing, I could see them move. I could see the blasters. I could see. And so I would make my own little movies, my own little scenarios, my own little action sequences, right? And I think my imagination that this movie franchise gave me or helped blossom has really carried over into my life growing up, and then to what I do today. Because just watching the movie and just being able to take what I know from the movie and adapt it to toys and seeing things that weren't there has really helped for me grow into be the person I am today. And I know it has a lot to do with Star Wars growing up, to the fact that it allowed me to be creative. Don't limit myself.
Right.
Like, just, you can do anything. And that's another attribute what I love about Star Wars. And I know that's what had a big impact for me, for sure.
Yeah, nicely said, and very similar for me. Very well said. It really lit the creative fire in me, and yeah, there wasn't a moment I went by in my childhood where, and Todd, you've spoken of this before too in other podcasts, where everything became like, even if I was a kid sitting here at my desk, I'd see this as a landing platform for an Imperial shuttle. This remote control would be a droid or would be a ship, or like everywhere I was. I mean, for real, my entire childhood was just probably too much. My head was in the clouds, but it just totally lit my imagination on fire. And as you said, it went on to affect me from there on out. And I ended up writing. I wrote my first book, fueled from the power, the creativity, the imagination that Star Wars imbued me with. So yeah, absolutely. And then just real quick to add to that thought, and what James also is touching on, that's the power of real storytelling / mythology, which is stuff that gets passed on, which at its very core roots is the same stuff, in that it connects everybody, binds the galaxy together, but it connects everybody. And that's why stories that go way back, and Homer, Shakespeare, and back to Homer, and just all this stuff, it's all still relatable. There's a human element to all the experiences that we have. So even something as fantastical and wild and mind-blowing, especially as a little kid, as Star Wars, it was still inherently based at its core at real values and real ideas that that will go on. That's why I think Star Wars has already stood this test of time, and it's going to continue to, because it's going to be relatable to people, just as stories from thousands of years ago were relatable, hence the modern myth.
Well, another thing you brought up too, Jason, the fact that things get passed down. If there was no Mandalorian, if there was no new trilogy that was made, I can guarantee you that other media, other movies, other TV shows would always reference Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? It'd be passed down from generation.
Right.
You watch a movie, Fire in the Sky. Have you ever seen Fire in the Sky? It has Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey, but dragons take over the earth.
Yes.
And so basically there's no internet, no computers, no TV, no movie theaters. Yeah. And so they were passing the story of Star Wars off to all the kids who grew up in this.
I love that scene.
Right? So, just goes to show that Star Wars, whether they don't make anything ever again, which they're not going to, but if they never did, it would still be passed down for centuries. I can guarantee it'll be passed down because it's in everything. It's in every type of media culture, music, comics, memes, social media. You can't get away from it now. It's everywhere. It's ingrained into the system, and it's not going anywhere, even if they don't make another thing again.
Absolutely. It's put its stamp on the time.
I just want to read Goldberry's comment. She says, I think my very favorite moment of Star Wars is in the Jedi, Return of Jedi, when they're about to be fed to the Sarlacc, when Luke does the twist and jumps back onto the barge.
That's a
great moment.
There's the whole dun-dun. Dun-dun, with the music where they're all nodding.
They're all nodding. And
there's a great parody. Have you seen The Family Guy? The Family Guy does a great parody where it goes like the 25 people that keep nodding. It's hilarious. But again, a very, very huge cinematic moment in movie history that, again, people pay homage to in their creations still today.
Right. Well, and speaking of, sorry, Jason, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and Goldberry finish that up, and we're taking from the movie a great moment in Return of the Jedi, and then she's alluding to that actually ended up going off the diving board with it. But hey, if that's what inspired you, to take that first leap into the pool, in real life, or to do that. But there's an example. There's 100 million 100 million different ways. Each person has their own inspiration from it.
Right.
Yeah. And just go back to her Leia thing. Remember, Leia was captured by Jabba the Hutt. Who got her out of that situation? She did. Right?
Yeah.
Talking about Leia, she mentioned Leia earlier. She didn't wait for anybody to save her. She did all the dirty work, right?
Right.
So,
yep.
Yeah, she murdered Jabba.
She killed Jabba.
Kind of did quite savagely too, right?
was
she could take care of herself. She's a big girl. She's a big girl who could take care of herself.
So, in speaking of inspired, that was my thing. I've said this many times before. When I first saw Star Wars, I wanted to be Luke Skywalker when I grew up. Then, as I got older, and it was after Empire Strikes Back, I remember thinking I wanted to be George Lucas when I grew up. So, it was really weird. I guess that's when I started realizing, oh yeah, this isn't real. But I want to be the guy that makes these movies. And I literally thought that I could just go and like George Lucas would be making movies for like ever. So by the time I got old enough, I just joined him and try to give him some script and stuff like this. I remember drawing pictures and ideas that I was going to present to George, and he was going to be like, yeah, dude, make a movie, Star Wars Episode 88 or something like this. And so that was my thing, right? And so,
well, sir, you have surpassed him in beard. Surpassed him in beards now.
I've surpassed him in height, for sure, definitely.
Absolutely.
Right, in stature, in one meaning anyway, you have surpassed him in stature.
Let's see what Jeremy says. Jeremy says, my dad told me when I was about 6 that there was a movie on TV I needed to watch. It was before they called it A New Hope, but it was Star Wars. Good memories. Then he took me to see Return of the Jedi. Yep.
Ooh. Oh, so you saw Star Wars, and then you saw Return of the Jedi. You missed Empire Strikes Back, probably the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. Oh,
still hasn't seen it. No, I'm kidding.
No spoilers. Darth Vader may be his father.
See, but there's another the connection, too, with family or whatever. His dad told him about the movie. And then they went together, just that kind of stuff, too. And it's that's the beauty of, and I always appreciate it with Star Wars. And we were talking about this too before with the Bad Batch, how it's, it's for kids. But to me, the best stories appeal to a 6-year-old as much as they appeal to a 90-year-old. They can be intense for both. I always appreciated movies that did that were like intense for a 6-year-old and also for somebody, for an adult. That's a great comeback, Jeremy. No, we caught that on TV.
The theaters where you have to watch it, though. Really, come on. I'm a little jealous that I didn't get out to see the 40th anniversary of the Empire Strikes Back in theater like Steve did. I'm a little disappointed.
I got to see it. I thought I missed it, and I didn't.
I'm so disappointed that I didn't go. Because it was just unfortunately COVID times, and I just didn't want to go out there. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Maybe they'll re-release it again after COVID, just to get people.
I went after another 45 years. I went actually with my youngest daughter to see it because my oldest daughter was ruined. The Last Jedi ruined Star Wars for her, so she didn't want to come with me. So
spoilers for next week, maybe.
Next week, yeah. It was amazing. I felt like such a dork, and I kept like going to my daughter, "Oh, this is it, and this is great," and I'm like, blah blah blah. Like I wasn't talking, I wasn't that jerk in the theater talking, but man, I was more excited than I probably should have been. It was crazy because it was on the big screen.
Well, that's just it, right? Like we all have nice TVs now, and most people have nice TVs, right? But man, it just doesn't. It's not the same as to see on the big screen. The big screen, the big sound, the big everything. Just be so nice to see it again. So nice.
But a minute, you get the reaction from the crowd, right? So the audience in there. So when the jokes happen, when Han and Leia are arguing, she calls him a scruffy-looking nerf herder, and he's like, "Who's scruffy-looking?"
Scruffy-looking.
In your living room, you're like, you might go, or if anything, but people are laughing because they're enjoying it. They're in the moment, and you're like, "Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, like I remember that feeling," and people are giggling and laughing about it. So.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. Too long. I'm a movie buff, and I love watching my movies first in theaters. And it's been over a year since I've been in a theater, so it's been way too long. But we're getting close. We're getting close.
Yeah, we're getting close.
There. It's getting closer, yeah. But so, sorry, I was just reading that in the comment. So, I think. After Star Wars, and I think we talked about this before, after Star Wars ended, when the original trilogy ended. I just remember after that, it was like, comics and books, but the role playing game, I wish I had it in front of me. I meant to bring it out as a prop, but the role playing game I remember came out for you pen and paper tabletop players. It
I
was
still
West
have a
End Games.
stack of books. Yes.
Yes, West End Games, the D6 kind of
D6,
that they did. Oh
which
man,
works.
I remember playing the crap out of that with Todd. You might remember Jan.
Yes, I remember Jan. I sure do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night,
He
Goldberg.
GM'd it. And we sorry. Good night, Goldberry. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, I remember that became kind of the Star Wars until like obviously way longer when the prequels came out. But man, we played the crap out of that. All different characters, and again, it was just the imagination and the inspiration. Like not only that, Dungeons and Dragons, because I'm a big dork, that really helped my imagination, right? It was like George Lucas and some fantasy stuff, and that really pulled it all together and made what you see today, this
vertical
Specimen.
mountain.
this specimen of a man with a whole bunch of toys for kids behind them that you see today. So, and that's what I like. I appreciate the Star Wars. They say, oh, it was made for kids, and it stayed that way. It didn't turn
Not for
into
kids.
No,
exactly.
those are so
It
nice,
didn't.
those figures.
They've kept that model, making it for kids. So we haven't yet, knock on wood, run into a Game of Thrones style of Star Wars yet, right? It's just
Right.
been still the same formula. It should be for kids, right? It should be for that, but adults should enjoy it too, without having to have a red wedding or any other kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? It's a reminder too, though, I think, to everybody, to people, because we joke about this stuff, of course, like the old men with our action figures and stuff like that. But one of the things that Star Wars, there you go, Jeremy, awesome. Well, but there's the point. Like, it reminded us, though, not to abandon everything just because you got older, not to abandon the imagination, the creativity. And also, to me, what I always thought was Star Wars turned it, and this isn't just words, everything we're saying, it's real stuff. It changed how I perceived the entire universe. I mean, everything, my life, whatever. And I just remember that, I'm like, awe and wonder, to look at things with awe and look at things with wonder and with hope. And you can tack on a bunch of words, but these are things that as a very young child, when I saw Star Wars, I was blown away. I was in awe. I looked up to the real sky, the starry night sky, and wondered what's going on out there for real. Is there a Luke Skywalker out there, or are we going to make it into space? All these things. And these are things that I've very proudly and very stubbornly been sure to bring with me into my adulthood to enrich my entire life. I don't want to ever lose that sense of wonder and awe or my creativity. It's really enriched my entire life. And I refuse. I'll never just sit around and I'll take care of my bills and then that's it. No. That some of that 5-year-old kid, a lot of that 5-year-old kid, maybe too much, will always be with me, always has, and all it's done has enriched my life.
You mentioned something here, Jason. But if you really look at the Star Wars, the original trilogy, right? What did it teach us? Never give up. No matter who you are, or how small you are, or how insignificant you are, you can be anything you want to be, and that there's always hope. You never give up, no matter how much is stacked against you. Don't give up. And the fact that people can be redeemed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter people make mistakes, but you can redeem people. Anybody, if you can redeem Darth Vader, anybody can redeem, right? With showing, love, right? Like it's that's a really strong message in the original trilogy, right? So, how's that terrible message to people, right?
Yeah, it's very, very true.
Exactly, and
Yeah, I guess that's the one thing. And even the redemption story where I just know that Yoda and Obi-Wan were like, nah, Luke, like Vader can't be saved. You have to confront him, which means kill him. And Luke held faith and show them in the end that he just kind of showed his father compassion and faith that he could be redeemed, and he was redeemed. But I'm sure, just like in the Robot Chicken, I think it was Robot Chicken skit, where it's like, where he's the Force Ghost and all these people that Vader killed when he was Vader, they're like, hey, what's up with that? Like, I think it was Mace Windu shows up and he's like looking at him. He's like, oh, awkward. It's true. It's like, wait a minute, he's a Force Ghost? What?
Would Robot Chicken be what it is today if not for Star Wars?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I still watch all of those. I actually, last week I was looking some of them up on YouTube.
Every year, I pretty much I'll recycle some of those Robot Chicken ones to the Star Wars stuff because they're so good. But again, Seth MacFarlane, huge lover of Star Wars, right? He loves, and Seth Green, he loves. I'm telling Seth because Seth MacFarlane does the voice of the Emperor.
Yes.
Right. So, and of course, he does the Family Guy, and they did the whole entire trilogy on Star Wars, right? So, just shows that these people love, and they do such a really good job doing parodies, alternate timelines of the Star Wars franchise, right? Just so good.
Right. So, I'm just thinking, before we go, next week, I guess I can't avoid it anymore. Next week, we're going to be talking about The Last Jedi. We're talking about it. Give everyone a little scan of your list of how long this thing is.
So I watched The Last Jedi, and I'm not going to tell you what I think of it, but I did this. Usually I don't make notes. For The Last Jedi, I want to make sure that if I'm going to be saying stuff, I want to have documented facts and stuff I brought up. So I made a list of, this is my last thing you can see right here. So Star Wars Episode 8, Last Jedi. Here's my list of things I want to discuss about The Last Jedi. Now, there's negative and there's good stuff. One list is longer. One list has 37 topics. The other one has 5. So I have lots to talk about next week.
I anxiously look forward to this one.
I am very anxiously looking forward to this. I cannot wait.
See, I think it's going to be our most controversial podcast because most of them have been we've always seen the good in a lot of things. Something tells me next week there might be a little bit different opinions about certain things, which I'm looking forward to.
I'm waiting for if Jen makes it next week.
Oh, I hope she does.
I remember her saying one time, all Star Wars is good Star Wars. So I look forward to the clash of generations.
I'm not remember too, I'm not as down on it as you guys.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I know
not
that's
by
what
a
I'm
long
looking
stretch for. Actually, I actually see we'll have next week. We'll have next week.
I'm so looking forward to this discussion next week, guys, is because it's a movie I just love to discuss, and I haven't had a really good opportunity to discuss this with some people because most people who are pro Last Jedi don't really have anything significant to say about it that makes me want to come close to change my mind. So I'm looking forward to talking with Jason, and hopefully Jen can be in there too.
There is some stuff there. There's some stuff.
Is there?
Oh yeah.
Do we watch the same movie?
Yeah.
I might feel dumber after watching it for the 4th time.
Yeah, I still haven't watched it a second time, so I may or may not get around to it.
You have to watch it this week. You have to watch it again, sir. You have to watch it. You have to watch it.
I will watch it.
I'm with Jason.
You have to watch it. You have to. For real.
Majority, you have to. Like,
we will be on.
I'm losing you.
We'll be on.
I'm losing you.
About seeing it.
I'm losing you. What?
Oh, what's going on, Steve?
There's static.
Oh no! I'll pretend that I'm frozen. We've lost him.
We lost Steve.
So yeah, we'll be doing that next week. So
get your porgs in line and watch it.
I get my oven ready for the porgs. Is what I'm doing.
Oh, I just can't wait. I mean, I've been. I won't lie. I was disappointed that we moved to the next week because I had my list ready to go. I was ready to
But it's
discuss.
Star Wars Day. We can't skip Star Wars Day. We have
No,
to talk about Star Wars Day.
Well, that's exactly. So that's why next week I'm looking forward to it.
Right. All right. So, everyone watching or who's tuned in and made comments, thanks for showing up and listening to a bunch of old nerds talk about the thing they love, which is Star Wars. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. That would help us out. And we look forward to seeing you.
We have to do a show and tell one of these days too.
There's a
Let's do that next week again.
No, it's a hat trick Stormtrooper. Sorry, I was like Stormtrooper. See,
let's do that next week instead. Okay,
that Black
yeah,
series,
awesome.
man, that stuff is nice.
I know, right? I'm just in love with it. It's expensive. I don't know how much it costs in the States, but in Canada, each one of these characters,
expensive.
These characters cost $34 for one.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
$34.
That's a little more than we
keep your eyes open, Jason. I was telling this to Todd before we came on. Before we go, some Cara Dune figures have been popping up here and there for some reason, like at Walmart's and whatnot. So you see a Cara Dune black figure or two. Pick them up because...
Right.
Is she wearing a Stormtrooper outfit?
She's wearing a metal bikini.
All right. I think it's time to go. So
May the 4th be with all you guys, man. You guys are all awesome. No.
No.